So a conversion flow is just how a user gets through to some offer or product and service and how they convert. So the actual process they go through to get there. Now, there's many different conversion flows. There's some that are desktop specific, some that are mobile specific, and some that can be observed or used across both of those platforms. The simplest one is probably single opt-in, which is where users basically just have to fill out a form or some sort of information, e.g. register for a game, fill out a small lead generation form, click on a link on a page and sign up to access something. Essentially, the advertiser just wants leads, i.e. emails or phone numbers, though they may be poorly qualified. Now from that you move to double opt-in. Double opt-in is where users just have to do some second action. For example, they submit an email and then they have to verify that email. That is the most common way that you would see that. Because there's an extra step involved, there's always going to be lower conversion rates versus a single opt-in, all else being equal. But because there is more intent from the user and they have committed more to actually doing that, there's more action involved, that person is inherently more valuable to the advertiser, so they are willing to pay more. So if you compare SOI and DOI, the payouts are generally different. They should be, because your conversion rate is guaranteed to go down on DOI, but which one would actually give you higher revenues or higher ROIs is something that you should always test if both those options are available. But with DOI, do remember that the leads are typically of higher quality to the advertiser. So if you're sending stuff through DOI, you're less likely to actually get removed from an offer or to get kicked or get your payout cut because of low lead quality. From there, you can of course move the conversion point even deeper, so that, for example, you get a conversion when a user logs into some app, or so on first launch, for example, or they log in and complete some sort of tutorial, which is quite common in gaming apps, for example, or they have to download a game, a big gaming client, and they have to get in and actually create a player and then go do something there. There's various conversion points you can move down into. Whenever you do move things deeper, there's two things that fundamentally happen. One, your conversion rate tends to go down. This is just simple, logic and maths. The more hoops you add, the more you require from that user, the fewer of them that are actually going to do it. And secondly, the value of that person to that user to the advertiser goes up because they have committed more to doing that. Their intent is higher. They are generally, all else being equal and in a rational world, going to be worth more to that advertiser because they are inherently more interested. So deeper conversion point, lower conversion rate, higher payout. That's kind of the gist of it. Now, the other thing there is lead quality, which is something we'll talk about a bit later. As you get to these deeper conversion points, the lead quality tends to go up, but there are some disadvantages there. Aside from the lower conversion rate that I mentioned, as you get to a higher payout and you have fewer conversions, there's two things that typically happen. One, you need to spend more to get more conversion data so that you basically have better data in terms of what traffic works, what ad works. For that, you need conversions, and it's ideal to have a certain number of conversions, and all else being equal, you're going to have to spend more to get those conversions on a higher payout offer than a lower payout offer. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does have consequences in terms of cash flow and the actual capital you have to invest in those campaigns. The second thing is lack of transparency. So as you have this conversion point deeper and deeper and deeper, there's always going to be conversion points that are shallower, right? So there's going to be the initial email submit, there's going to be the verification of that email, there's going to be download of an app, install of an app, first login of an app, and then you might get to the conversion point, which is them completing a tutorial. Now, for you as the advertiser and the affiliate, it kind of sucks to have to wait all the way till the end to actually see some sort of data. So it would be nice to see a conversion event for the opt-in, for the verification or double opt-in, for the download, for the install, for all of these things, but it's not typical of advertisers to actually supply anything even close to this kind of transparency. As an affiliate, probably just not going to happen. If you are direct with the advertiser, maybe. The advertiser, sadly, is probably tracking all of this themselves, and they just don't care about sharing that data with you, the measly affiliate. You're just expected to blindly throw your users and your traffic and your money into these products and services and just wait for some sort of conversion on the back end. Really, I don't like it, but that's just the way it is. Now, moving on to mobile. So there are a lot of conversion flows which are mobile specific. App installs, when you download, install, and open an app, this fundamentally isn't, a mobile specific thing, but this is a very typical mobile conversion flow. Lead generation is normal on mobile, like people fill out forms on mobile now, everyone knows this, so mobile lead generation and form filling is very typical now. Pay per call is obviously a pretty mobile centric thing because people are on their device that they can call from. There's entirely separate tracking systems for this. There's conversion events based on the initial call, on phone call duration, and so on. PIN submits are another kettle of fish. There is an entire branch of conversion flows just within PIN submits. And frankly, I don't understand these very well because I don't really care too much about PIN submits, but here they are for you anyway. So you have IVR flow, which is apparently interactive voice response, which is relevant to pay-per-call campaigns. You have MO flow, which is where the user puts in his number, receives a text or SMS, and confirms by replying to it. You have MO flow with click to SMS, where a user clicks on a banner, they're sent to some sort of application where they submit something, click a confirmation button, something converts. You have MO/MS/ISDN flow, where users, their mobile number is automatically detected, sends them an SMS, and they do something according to instructions and a conversion occurs. And then you have MT flow and MT/MS/ISDN. See, these are even hard to say, so I'll let you read up about these if you're really that concerned. Now, that aside, the most important thing to understand about conversion flows is that you should always know exactly where in a conversion flow or in this process of a user activity, a conversion event happens. Where amongst all the things the users are doing, do you get paid? That is the single most important thing you need to know about conversion flows, and then you can get on to what affects that, or what can kind of impede that, or what complications can come up in terms of getting to that action. Now, with that in mind, the other thing that you should be mindful of is that whenever you do whenever you run a new offer, whenever you're testing a new offer and you're going to send money to it, you should obviously know when the conversion, where the conversion event is, as I said. Secondly, you should directly trigger it yourself so that you know where it is and then you know it actually works. Now, there are some exceptions to this because sometimes it's hard to actually trigger that conversion yourself, but you should always try and do a test conversion if you can actually do so, and I'll show you how to do some of those at a later date when we're actually rolling out campaigns. Now, moving on to commission types. So you get paid through various models. So you have the basic payout type, the per lead conversion, install, or other free actions. So things like CPL, CPA, CPI, the conversion for some obvious event, which is essentially a lead for an advertiser. You can also be paid on a per sale basis, so cost per sale. Now this is when you get paid for the user, kind of clearly purchasing something. There is a much higher barrier to conversion because of that. Often it's going to have to involve whipping out a credit card. And then on the other hand, you can get a revenue share basis, which is kind of similar, where you just get a percentage of the sales that a user actually makes. This is similar to CPS, but it can scale in different ways, because if it's something like a shopping cart system where users can buy one or multiple things, then it's essentially a flexible scaling CPS based on the actual transaction amount. This is often also recurring for subscription-based services. So you can work on a rev share basis with something that's a subscription, and then you keep getting a revenue share every time that user is actually renewed and charged again, which obviously has some nice benefits. So to expand on cost per sale, obviously someone actually has to buy something, so they're going to have to pull out a credit card. That is just an immediate resistance point there. So conversion rates are going to generally be lower, but payouts are going to be much, much higher. So expect payouts to be of the $10 to $200 range. Because of these higher payouts, you typically need a higher budget for testing to actually get enough conversion data to really know what is and what isn't working. Now, one thing you should be mindful of is that this is much, much safer for the advertiser, and lead quality is inherently extremely high because you only get paid when someone buys something. So obviously to the advertiser, that lead quality is awesome because they have got revenue directly from that. Now, because of that, it's very, very easy to scale those kinds of campaigns for an affiliate once something's working, because you only get paid when the advertiser gets revenue, right? So they're going to want you to scale almost, infinitely if you can. Now, although that is the case, you do have to be mindful of refunds and chargebacks. So while lead quality is inherently high, if you do get refunds because of misleading advertising or misrepresenting a product, those refunds can, a lot more trouble than just generally low lead quality in a CPL or a cost per lead system. Now with revenue share, it's obviously similar to CPS, but you get paid as a percentage of the revenue. It will scale with user purchases, so there's some utility there for you if those purchase amounts aren't fixed and people will actually spend quite high amounts. There may be an attribution window as well, or a large attribution window where if you send a user and they buy something or they don't buy something yet, you still get a share of the revenue if they buy something within a certain period of time, say 30 days, which would be quite generous. And then, of course, there is the subscription system where when you send someone on a rev share basis and they sign up, you've kind of got an agreement with that advertiser, or at least this agreement would be written down before you actually started pushing traffic, where you say get 50% of the revenue for that user for life, or you get 25% of the first month and then 10% of any ongoing revenue. There's generally terms like that, but what that means is that person or that user that you convert, that can be an ongoing asset to you and an ongoing source of income. And there are people in the industry who, are still making thousands of dollars per month or per week or even per day from revenue share stuff that they've done years ago with, say, gambling and casinos, for example, where certain users are still spending money there and they're still getting they're still getting revenue from that, and the advertiser can't really break that agreement because it was sealed in stone when you actually sent that traffic, and not paying you for that would be a breach of that agreement, so you just get to sit there with a nice passive income. So to conclude there, no one commission type is better than the other. They all have pros and cons. You should probably be able to see a pro and a con in every one of these different commission models. When you're starting out, it's best to go for the low barrier to conversion lead-based commissions like cost per lead and single opt-in, double opt-in app installs, because they're kind of the best balance of investment in terms of your campaign and your data and the reward you get. There's disadvantages to that, but when you're starting out, it is definitely the most advantageous path to take. Now, different commission types bring different pros and cons, as I said, but don't discount any particular type and throw away opportunities because you think that CPS is hard or doesn't work or requires too much money, or that rev share is just a waste of time because you don't get immediate returns that are as high. Don't think like that. There are advantages to every single one of them, and every one of them can make you as an affiliate money. Now, to end off, I'll leave some resources with this module and some cheat sheets on bidding models, bidding modes, commission types, and so on. I'll even leave a paper on the theory of VCG that you guys can read.